What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to talk about adult daycare startup costs for a smaller center, approximately 4,000 square feet. What should you expect to spend on that startup? But first, I know you want this shirt. I know you want to get yourself one of these, but you can. You just got to go to carepreneur.co and you can look just as fabulous as I do. And trust me, it's not me, it's the shirt, okay? So anyways, guys, here's the important thing, okay? When you're thinking about a startup cost, like I want you to understand that this is not science, okay? Every location, every state, it's gonna depend on so many variables that I'm just trying to give you an idea of a range. Just so you have an idea, like what should I expect to spend, but it's a wide range. And so this is not an exact science, but this is just to kind of, give you something to kind of just, bite your teeth on and get a little familiar with what, types of costs you should expect to spend when you're looking at opening up your own adult daycare center and launching that entrepreneurial venture. So that being said, what I've done here is kind of broken down the difference between startup costs and working capital. We've come up with a kind of a low end range and a high end range. What would that range look like? Again, it's just a guide, but just want you to know that the startup costs is typically, this is the honeymoon phase of every business. This is when you're dreaming and you're watching this video and you're thinking about that future adult daycare you're gonna open and how amazing it's gonna be and how it's, this is gonna be the catalyst to freedom for you and your family and creating that generational wealth or whatever aspirations that you might have for yourself. And it's the honeymoon phase because this is the planning phase, the dreaming phase, and all those good things. But the real rubber meets the road when you enter the working capital phase, because now you're open. Now you have to go from the state of oh, I can't wait till this one day. I can't, we have to design this, design that. We have to plan this. We have to pick our logo. To now it's like, okay, you're open. The expenses are coming. Are you producing revenue? And so these are two very different stages of the business. But when you're thinking about capitalizing your business, you need to understand both the costs leading up to day of opening and the costs that are going to continue after day one and beyond to when you're finally profitable. That being said, on the low end here, we got construction, we got furniture and fixtures, we got inventory, office supplies, marketing, legal and accounting, insurance, signage, licensing. So in construction, it's gonna vary a lot. A lot of it's gonna depend on what status is the space that you're going into look like. Is it in a healthy situation? Is it a wide open space where you're not doing a lot of demolition? Are there plenty of bathrooms? Is the plumbing in the right place? Some of those things are gonna vary, how much it might cost you to renovate the property or renovate that interior space. But if there's gonna be plumbing involved, if there's electric involved, if there's certain things involved, that might push that cost up a little bit. If you're gonna add a ton of walls and change the layout a lot, that's gonna increase the cost. When you think about furniture, you might buy furniture for half of your daily census as a starting point, because you may decide look, on day one, we're not gonna have, we're not gonna be at 100% capacity. Do we need to spend all that money on furniture today? But the one thing you do risk is you risk the chance that furniture might still be available in the future, so you possibly might have two different styles of furniture, so you would have to make that choice on your own. Other things to consider is inventory. Things like all the games that you might have for your members. You might have all of the the plates, the cups, the dishes, all of the inventory items that you might need to run your center. What would that be? How much would those things cost? Again, it might depend on how much do you plan on investing into your activities program in the very beginning. The other thing to take into consideration is office supplies, computers, telephone systems, cameras, all of these things that maybe you hadn't thought about before. What are those going to cost? When it comes to marketing, what about your printed material? What about your website? What about your clothes? Your uniforms. What other marketing items are you going to create? Are you going to print? Are you going to have binders, folders, envelopes? Think about all those things. Now you're going to have to order a bunch of those and have those in stock. And how much is that going to cost you? When you think about legal and accounting, have you set up your own LLC or your own business before? Are you using an accountant? Do you have an accountant? Is that person going to be doing it for you, or are you doing it yourself? Of course, I would always recommend speak to an accountant, speak to a lawyer. Make sure you speak to professionals so you have a true understanding of what these services are, what they cost, and if you need them or not. The other thing is insurance. Having the proper general liability insurance coverage. Are you going to be offering transportation? Do you need to have insurance for both transportation as well as for just your general liability. Signage, now are you going into a plaza that requires a certain type of signage? Are you responsible for paying for that signage, or does the plaza, are they going to compensate or take care of that cost as part of their tenant improvements? So is there going to be a cost to that? Are you going to have signage on the inside? Are you going to have signage in the parking lot? These are all those types of things to take into consideration, but sometimes signage is not cheap. Licensing, you're going to go through the licensing process, probably a licensing fee, and then in addition to that, you might have little, county and city licensing things. You might also, utilize services to help you put together the actual application, the packet. In the state of Florida, we have this thing called a proof of financial ability statement. It's a really complex Excel spreadsheet. And in most cases, we just hire someone to complete that for us. We fill out a form, we give them the information, they fill it out so it goes through the state governing body in a way that is going to kind of pass without omissions, because it's a really complex form and it takes a certain type of accountant that understands, what the state is looking for and understands how to put that, file together. Now it's opening day, the moment you've been waiting for. You're so excited and you're like, this is it. And you open the doors and no one shows up. What are you gonna do? Oh my God. I mean, you were so excited, you couldn't wait. You knew the town needed this service, and now you open up day one and no one's there. What are you going to do? What's that gonna look like? Do you have enough capital to keep yourself open for 6 months? How long do you have to go before you run out of money? This is where working capital comes into play. And please do not underestimate how much you're going to need for working capital, because this is the area of the business that is probably the most treacherous, the one that you really want to make sure that you have enough capital to get you through. So that being said, do you have enough coverage for rent expense? So if you're not bringing any revenue in, how long, do you have a rent abatement? Were you able to work out something with your landlord, and for how long? But if not, then can you cover that cost of rent, and for how long? For 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months? In this example, we kind of did a range of between 3 and 6 months, and we based our rent on about a $15 per square foot basis. So $15 per square foot for a 4,000 square foot space comes out to about $30,000 in rent for about 6 months. Another thing you're looking at here is salaries and payroll. Do you have people on your team? Are you paying anyone, or are you doing, you and your husband, or maybe you and someone else in your family, or you and your partner? Maybe you guys are the ones that are actually doing all the work, but you're gonna have a couple other people helping you out. And have you taken into consideration their payroll expenses, what those might look like? Also, utilities. Have you set aside enough money for working capital to keep the lights on, to make sure the water's running, to make sure you got cable, internet, and whatever else you might need to run your business? And then of course, if you've taken out a loan through the SBA or some other form of loan, there's going to be a monthly interest expense of some sort. Have you thought about how much that monthly interest expense is going to be? And have you set aside enough capital to help carry that cost, to make sure you can carry that loan or that debt service, and for what period of time? And so these are all things that you need to take into consideration. Again, a 3 to 6 month window, you have to ask yourself, is that realistic? On day one, what I've learned is that most people underestimate the amount of time it's going to take for them to become, to get open and get profitable by like twofold. So meaning if they think they're going to become profitable in 3 months, then it might take them 6 or 9 months. If they think they're going to be profitable in 6 months, it might take them a year. So whatever time frame you are thinking it's going to take you to become profitable, just times that by 2, and that's probably a more realistic understanding of how long it'll take you to become profitable. So I'm not trying to be discouraging, but I'm trying to be realistic, because this is the stage of the business that is so important, and it's usually the one where people get in trouble because they have not properly capitalized the business. So I hope this was helpful. Obviously, we'll go over the other price points. The reality of it is as we broke this down and kind of put a more detailed price structure together, you can kind of see here how the total cost of this startup cost plus working capital, somewhere between the range of $153,000 and $342,000 for a 4,000 square foot space. That's just a general ballpark idea. These are not exact estimates. Every area is gonna be different. Got to put that disclaimer out there, but I hope this helps provide a little clarity for you when you're thinking about opening up your own adult daycare. So thanks for joining me. Appreciate you guys' love, support, like, comment, subscribe, show some love. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. Now get back to work. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to learn how to open your own adult daycare center, go to adcpro.com. If you'd like the latest business tips, click here, and make sure you subscribe to our channel, click here. We'll see you guys next time.